While thousands of landlords across the country waited months on end to receive federal rental assistance money because the government wouldn't let them evict non-paying tenants, one fraudster scammed $268,000 out of the rental assistance program to pay for vacations and her own personal real estate. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting topic to cover today, and it has to deal with the rental assistance programs that were created through the whole pandemic eviction moratorium nonsense. So obviously, the government was throwing a ton of money out there, right? And scammers and fraudsters and people who were just trying to cheat the system took advantage of it. And for once, I'm not talking about a tenant. This is a person who pretended to be a landlord and claimed that, I'm not getting paid rent by my tenants. And guess what? The government didn't do any verification, didn't do any checking to make sure that this claim that this person was making was actually true, and instead just sent her checks totaling, I believe, close to $268,000. Okay, this is absolutely ridiculous, but it goes to show you that, any program that the government implements, it's going to have a ton of fraud, waste, and abuse that goes along with it. And, part of that fraud, waste, and abuse is scammers like this, but the other big part is tenants who do not deserve to receive this sort of rental assistance, who are still getting paid because they didn't face any financial hardship, but they are getting rental assistance. Okay, that's another story altogether. So, I don't want to get the topics confused, but keep in mind that's a problem just as much as this is a problem. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Have you heard any other stories of, fraudsters or scammers, or do you know any tenants who scammed the system in order to get this federal rental assistance? I received some federal rental assistance because my tenants weren't paying rent. My only question, and I'm not saying it's fraud because these people legitimately qualified for it, but how long are you going to be unemployed? Like the market here is so strong, the job market, that it's below 3% unemployment, yet for some reason you're out of work for 6+ months. I mean, that doesn't sound right to me, okay? It sounds to me like maybe you're not getting the job you want, but that doesn't mean there aren't jobs available. Maybe you need to humble yourself and take that lower paying position so that you can pay your bills without the government, basically being, acting as your parents, okay? That's why I don't like socialism. I don't like socialist systems. And what you end up with is, all this fraud, all this waste, all this abuse of a system that was put into place that, with good intentions, mind you, right? I think a lot of socialists actually have good intentions, but they do not understand human psychology. And that is why socialism doesn't work. Oh, man. So let's get into this article. So this article, it's coming out of my hometown newspaper. That's the Kansas City Star, and it says, woman got $267K in pandemic rental aid and paid for vacations, real estate, feds say. Yeah, she blew the money on garbage, right? Shouldn't be too surprised that she got caught. I mean, and I heard about all sorts of, paycheck protection program, PPP loan fraud. And, every time the government threw all this money out there, the fraudsters, they came out in full force. Okay, so yeah, don't expect any huge amount of spending by the government not to have just a ton of fraud involved with it. So let's get into the article and see what it says. A Missouri woman submitted 52 fraudulent applications seeking rent assistance for her and her tenants during the COVID-19 pandemic and received $267,239 through her scam, according to federal authorities. Now, Samaj Portis of St. Louis County has been sentenced to 1 year and a day in prison. She's also ordered to repay the money she fraudulently received, according to an October 7th news release from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri. Authorities said the scheme began in January of 2021 when Portis registered a company called Forever Riding as a nonprofit organization in Missouri. She listed herself as the incorporator and registered agent, according to court records. Portis then submitted 52 applications seeking rent help to the Missouri Housing Development Commission, federal authorities said. She listed herself or Forever Riding as the landlord on those forms, and she submitted fake rental leases. Not a single one of those applications were legitimate, prosecutors said. Indeed, Portis did not own a single property listed in those applications, nor was she the landlord for a single tenant in those applications. So, there were no checks and balances whatsoever before they sent this money out. I mean, they could have easily verified that, hey, let me look up the address on this property. Well, this property isn't registered to this person, so we can't send the check there. Or they could call the tenants and verify with the tenants, or something. There has to be some sort of verification. I mean, I can tell you, I've read stories, I've made so many videos about the trouble that landlords and tenants went through trying to receive this federal rental assistance money and how difficult it was. Okay? It was not easy in a lot of places, yet this lady was able to register 52 properties and get paid rental assistance for all of them. That is insane, okay? And it wasn't when the pandemic was first starting either, right? They said that she started the scheme in January of 2021. So all of the, rental assistance programs and eviction moratoriums and all that, they all started back in, spring and summer of 2020. So, these programs were running for a while and she still was able to scam them this well. Okay, it's impressive in a way, but, she made huge mistakes. She didn't realize that, hey, well, they might actually eventually catch up with her when she's putting herself down as the registered agent for this nonprofit. I mean, it's not hard to create a nonprofit. It's just as easy as creating an LLC, okay? It takes a little bit of paperwork, maybe a couple $100 or maybe even less than that if you can just get that paperwork and just file it with the state. And, next thing you know, she's just, oh, well, no, we're legitimate. Look at the name that she chose for this place, Forever Riding, the nonprofit. Well, that sounds like a car club. That doesn't sound like a place that's providing housing to anyone. This was a complete scam, a complete joke, and, the people of Missouri should be feeling like fools right now because this lady got them so well. Now, they gave her 1 year and 1 day in prison, right? Now, I worked in the federal prison system, right? So they have this thing where if you get if you get a 365-day sentence, right, you have to serve basically that whole amount of time. If you get anything over that amount, then you can get like 6 months of good time. So basically, she's only going to spend 6 months in prison. That's what all of that really means. That's why they gave her 1 year and 1 day. So she's going to spend, this 1 year in prison, or 6 months in prison, I'm sorry. And then she'll, get out. She'll have that felony conviction on her, but she probably won't care. She's a pretty serious fraudster. She'll get right back to doing what she was doing before. This is so sad. I feel bad that, the state of Missouri, the taxpayers are really the losers in this situation, okay? And then the good landlords who weren't able to get rental assistance because, they gave all their funds to this lady, okay? There's a lot of landlords out there who have not received any rental assistance for tenants who are not paying rent, and they just took those losses. See, I've got huge gripes against these rental assistance programs. I had huge gripes, but the worst thing was the eviction moratorium in the first place should have never been implemented. And we wouldn't have had any need for these rental assistance programs, okay? So, keep this stuff in mind whenever something else comes up like this where they think, oh, well, maybe the solution is just the government passing out masses of money. Well, that doesn't even talk about, the fact that the government spending has led to record inflation. That's another topic altogether. But let's continue with the story. But her emergency rental assistance applications were accepted, and authorities said she received grant money meant to help landlords and their financially struggling tenants during the COVID-19 pandemic. The defense attorney representing Portis, 43, did not respond to a request for comment from McClatchy News on October 10th. For too many Missourians, the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in an unprecedented time of financial hardship, turmoil, and suffering, Assistant U.S. Attorney Derek Wiseman said in a sentencing memorandum. But for defendant Samaj Portis, it constituted a lucrative opportunity to line her pockets with relief payments earmarked for struggling Missourians. Yeah, and these problems will continue to occur, okay? So here is what I think should happen, okay? We end these federal rental assistance programs permanently, okay? We move on to doing business as normal. I did a video just the other day about how they want to make rental assistance permanent. That is idiotic, okay? The government should not be paying people's rent for them, regardless of if they lost their job or they face some sort of hardship or not. I want you to think about just a few years ago, 5 years ago. Let's just go back 5 years. So it's 2017, right? And let's say that you suddenly are in a horrible car accident, you're put into a coma, all the bones in your body are broke. Do you still have to pay your rent? Does your landlord still have to get their rent 5 years ago, right? Remember, you faced hardship. Maybe you've lost your job because you've missed so much work because you've been in this coma, right? And you have all these medical bills. You've had this horrible situation happen to you, right? And just 5 years ago, nobody gave a crap, okay? Maybe there'd be some kind of nonprofit or group who would step up and help you pay rent, but the government didn't help you, okay? You were on your own. So don't give me this garbage about how the government now suddenly, well, if you lose your job or if you, get sick, from whatever illness it might be. I mean, 5 years ago, if you got cancer, nobody cared. I mean, even to this day, I want people to think about that for a second, okay? So to this very day, they give, COVID-19 precedence over being sick with other illnesses, okay? So you could literally be, stage 4 cancer, right? Dying, and you're not eligible for rental assistance. But if you suffered, because of the pandemic, because you had COVID, well, here's your rental assistance money. That's how stupid all this garbage is, okay? And, that is why I just do not believe in these programs at all.